Here's Alidar. He's moving too. And Alidar comes like a shot into third.
Fusaichi Pegasus will roll into Kentucky as the favorite in the Derby.
And here it is. The 37-year wait is over. American Pharoah is finally the one.
Talk about American Pharoah finally being the one. As we go through these Wood Memorials, there were a lot of horses along the way that might have been the one, and I don't know if any more so than Fusaichi Pegasus.
Was it easily as he won this race, and with his pedigree and the way he did it, like just so tractable, you knew he was going to be able to negotiate a 20-horse field in the Derby.
No, and he was as impressed in the Derby as he is in this Wood Memorial. Spent over $4 million for him. He was undefeated as a 3-year-old through the Kentucky Derby. Met a young, lightly raced horse for the Stronach stable in Red Bullet, who eventually stopped that train in the Pimlico in the Preakness, and even the third-place finisher Aptitude comes back to run second in the Kentucky Derby. This was a sensational Wood Memorial.
It really was. I mean, you think about Red Bullet coming back from this second-place finish, winning the Preakness. Actually, he skipped the Derby. They pointed for the Preakness. He wins the Preakness. Aptitude was a solid horse, a bit unlucky in this race, and a bit unlucky in some of his other races as well.
He was a horse that had trouble putting it together. Yeah. He had that huge race in the Jockey Club Gold Cup as a 4-year-old, but he failed badly in the Breeders' Cup Classic. And it's amazing, you talk about this, and here's Foo Peg, 4-5, favorite, buries the field in the Derby. And by the time the year was over, he wasn't 3-year-old champion either, Richie. Absolutely amazing. Horse in the race also named Connect that went up at 193 to 1. Not as good as the one who's running these days.
Yeah, the current Connect is a little bit better, and that's Country Only shooting out to the lead. Herbie Castillo for John Kimmel. But you see Red Bullet secures good position, a little bit closer than when he wound up running the Preakness. Jerry Bailey took him back. But look at where Foo Peg is. He's 6th. Down on the inside, taking the kickback, just not a care in the world. He looks like an armchair ride.
No, it's amazing. And actually, I was surprised. I thought it was Bailey riding him in the Preakness, but this was Alex Solis who was actually riding Red Bullet in here. Aptitude was Brice Blanc. It was really a California contingency who's riding his horse. But you're right. I mean, Foo Peg, man, he's just cruising along like a car.
Yeah, and you know, he gives him a little rein. He cruises up in there. He takes a little, he backs off. Aptitude was kind of getting shuffled around in the back of the pack early, and he has to be hard-ridden to get in the race. Just seemed like an inexperienced horse. But you know, Bobby Frankel would ride somebody like Brice Blanc because he'd come around and work horses for him.
Well, you know, Aptitude must have been a frustrating horse for Bobby Frankel because he was a very talented horse, but he was often his own worst enemy. And you're right. Look at how much Brice Blanc is riding him. He's the second to last horse in the picture. He's been riding this horse for a good 6 furlongs, but there's Foo Peg. DeSormo barely has to ride him at all.
He's just cruising up on the outside. And again, think about it. Some good horses here. Red Bullet. And you can see, he knows he has the race won. Now, how much am I going to use to win because I want to go into the Derby with a fresh horse?
Well, he got there with a pretty fresh horse because he's cruising up on the outside. As you say, Kent's relatively hand riding him, ducks in a little bit, and here comes Tom Durkin.
To the final furlong, and Fusaichi Pegasus runs by the front runners, and he's pulling away, and he is pulling away impressively. Red Bullet left behind, Country Only 3rd, Aptitude 4th. Fusaichi Pegasus will roll into Kentucky as the favorite in the Derby.
I'll tell you something, Red Bullet wasn't stopping. He was still running. It's just that Foo Peg had just such a tremendous stride, and he had that tough, muddy track in the Preakness. And a lot of people will forget the Jerome that he came back in. I mean, he vanquished El Corredor, Albert the Great, who came back in his next start and won the Jockey Club by 10, and you were 4th with Hook and Ladder.
Hook and Ladder, who was a good sprinter.
Who was a good horse.
Real good sprinter. Now, it's interesting. We looked at, you know, we talk about Wood Memorials. The 87 Wood Memorial, 2 Mr. Prospectors running 1-2. Here's Foo Peg, the last crop of Mr. Prospectors winning a Wood Memorial.
Well, I mean, it's amazing, and a lot of people hoped and thought, you know, he could be the one to carry on for him. He turned out not to be a particularly good sire, but when Foo Peg was right, he was a tremendous racehorse.